Okay, thank you, Brian. I'm really pleased to introduce Mike Carrigan. About 10 years ago or so, Mike ran across, he doesn't want me to say it was across Canada. He ran from Strathroy to New Brunswick, raising money for rural mental health. And I'll let him tell you all the rest about that run. I asked him to send me some notes of some nice things I could say about him. And so I printed that off. So he grew up on a mixed farm at Reese's Corners, and he was the sixth of 12 children. And if the Carrigan name seems familiar to you, it's because we're going to be presenting a Carrigan Scholarship today in honor of Patrick and Timothy Carrigan, which was his brothers. So he's married to Kathy, who he has with us today. They've been married for 41 years. They have 5 children, 11 grandchildren, and he moved to where he lives now. He moved there in 1977. It's just into Middlesex County. If you go halfway between Alveston and Glencoe and down the side road, and it's the old town of Walkers. And you might find that on a sign somewhere. So he worked for 37 and a half years at Imperial Oil as he was running his farm. And he tells me he gave them the best years of his life, but he plans on collecting their pension for another 37 and a half years, and then they'll be even. So I asked him about his education, and he said, as far as a post-secondary education, I'd like to say that I graduated with honors from the School of Hard Knocks, and he's been in the hog business for 48 years. He says he's still learning things, and then he just went on to talk about how we're going to get together to get here tonight. So without anything more from me, I'd like to turn this over to Mike, and he'll tell you about his adventures of running to the East Coast.
Thanks, Bert. It's an honor to be here tonight, and I'm just going to share just a little bit about our experience 12 years ago. It was Kathy and I went from Strathroy to Miramichi. I have no concept of time, so Bert, maybe after an hour or so, give me a wave. So we did what we called, page 1. We called it the Run for Rural Mental Health. There's a lot of stuff over there if you want to look through it afterwards. Kathy did a couple of binders of, what do you call them? Scrapbooking. And pictures, and they're really nice. And they got pictures and stories, and they have they really helped me to get ready to do this. In fact, I learned some things about the run as I read it. So, anyways, the question of what? The what was the Run for Rural Mental Health. It was 1,851.42 kilometers, and it was, we were initially just going to do it for something to do, and that was my thought. Our son lived out in Rogersville, and we were flying out there, and I just kind of looked down at the ground, and I thought, I could maybe run up here someday, and that was 2010. So that was just an idea, and it was just like everything in life. You start with an idea, then it becomes a goal, and then it becomes reality. And so it did transpire as a reality that did come to pass. So I retired on October 1st, 2012, and I was 55 years old. And we decided, Kathy said, if you're going to do all this, you should do it for something. And I wasn't keen on doing it for anything, just something to do. And then I see it in the Glencoe Transcript and Free Press, which I missed that paper, but anyways, there was a story in there about, there was 3 mental health agencies. Search was one of them in Strathroy, Watch was from London, and CMHA in London. And they were amalgamating into one entity, and they were only going to have one CEO, one treasurer, one board of directors. And as soon as I read that, I thought, I can do that. And and that sounds like a perfect scenario to support. And plus our son in the middle there, Jacob, he was diagnosed in 2004 with bipolar, and that made it easier, that kind of fit in there too. And so I called them up, and they said, well, Vicki Stevens is who you want to talk to, and she runs the show here, and so we exchanged a few emails, and when I actually went there, and Vicki is just one of these incredible people that knows how to get things done. There may not be the resources, but she'll move things around, she'll get it done, one way or the other, it'll happen. And she had put this whole book together. It was a binder about search, and it was like I was at a sales pitch. She was selling me the idea. She thought I was shopping it around. I wasn't. The decision was already made. We were just meeting. So I thought that was kind of nice. But anyway, so that's the what. Our goal was to raise $10,000, and before we even left, we had that. So we put a zero on behind that and made the goal $100,000. And I think I'm forgetful on the numbers, but when we got back, I think we had 35,000. We did a big celebration in Glencoe and an auction, and then a year later we did a run in Strathroy on Thanksgiving, and it was well past 75,000 net dollars that went to search, and they used that because at the time there was a 6-month wait. If you needed to see a counselor for a mental health issue, you called them up and you got on the list, and it was 6 months to wait. I thought that's just stupid. And so anyways, they used the money that we raised to hire a part-time counselor to bring that down. So not all stories have a good ending, but this one did, so that was good. So that's the what. I think I pretty well covered the why, because I just wanted to, and our son and the mental health thing. Oh, the other thing was 3 things. Our barns were up in 2012, and it was kind of needed a massive rebuild, and I thought, if you're ever going to get out, this would be the time. And so I thought, I could run and reflect on that. And but after the first hour, I already knew the answer to that one. So, now the how, I had a map, and we just sort of knew roughly about how it was going to work. But what we did was we would just go. I would run 30K, Kathy would catch up with the motorhome, and then we would sit down at night and write out on a little card the names of the roads we were going to go the next day, and we'd have help. Some of the people we stopped with, they had assistance, but after a while you let it go. When the road said Ski Hill Road, you didn't want to run on that one. And I carried with me, so this was back before I had a cell phone, but I had a little pouch, and it had Kathy's cell phone number in it. $10 was it? She thought I should have 20, but I thought if her car coming hit me and I killed, I had $20 go away. And the instructions and Kathy's number, this is who we call. So luckily we never had to do that. And that's where I would put the instructions of the directions for the day. And it worked out really good. In the last 6 months before I retired, they had a posting, and they had this posting policy. Everybody took a turn, like it was by seniority, and it just happened to be my turn. And it was odd because it was the right procedures for a unit that I had never worked on. And it was all on my days off, it was just all overtime, it was just crazy. But I took it, and in the end, this happens more than I forgot why I started this story. I know. Some of you can relate to this. So I didn't have any time to train, and but then I thought, okay, you just, you're going to run 100 miles, you just run, every day you'll get stronger. But that's not how it happened. So when I took off, once we got out around Tiny Township, King Township, that area really hilly. And I messed up an ankle, the left ankle. So we ended up, I didn't do it all in one. I did it in 3 legs from October 14th, we left Strathroy, and by the 26th, I had to stop. And I told my man just went out to run, and legs wouldn't run. I didn't walk, they were done. So we get home, recuperated over the winter, went back out in the spring, in April, for about 3 weeks, and then got to go to our grandkids' elementary school in Waco and talk about before we left. Our one daughter lived in Waterloo. Got to go to her kids' school and talk and meet them. Sarah was going to the University of Waterloo then, and she held an open house there. People came. I had cousins that I hadn't seen for a while. They lived down there. They came. It was just meant a lot that they would take out time out of their day to come. But they all wanted to share it, and everybody, it seemed like they had a mental health story to tell. And I remember at that one, there was somebody shared a story about, I think it was her brother committed suicide, and her parents wouldn't acknowledge that that's what happened. And it was a sad story, but people told you those stories, and then we could tell our stories, and it was just, the whole run was full of what I call positive experiences, and all the positive things that people, once they met us and kind of had an idea of what we were doing, it was just like, what can we do to help? What do you need? And it was just all the time. And so there's, contrary to what you might hear on the news, there's a lot of good people out in the world. There's a lot of good things going on, and you just have to search them out. So, I have to get a last note here. Okay, some of the things up around Guelph, my sister Eileen, she's married to Jim Taxley farm in Swanky Township there. And so she came and she brought my brother Joe, who is a runner, and he ran for me one day. And they drove all the way up there, ran for a couple hours, and then drove back. I just thought, wow, that was really neat. And they set us up with Heather, John and Heather Weir. And I think Heather is Kevin Forbes' sister. Yes, yes. So that is my sister's husband's sister's daughter. All along there. And, but they were the same thing. They welcomed us into their house. They prepared meals for us. We spent 2 nights there, I think. It was just, and they had young kids. And they were dairy farmers. And he also worked as a part-time feed salesman. And she had stuff going on. And they just fit us into the schedule. It was awesome. John very wanted me to meet his grandmother. She lived in Blackstock, which was just a few miles up the road. So that was on her path to run that day. And so as I was coming up to Blackstock, she had organized some young kids, and they were all ran with me into town. We stopped at his grandmother's place and had a nice visit with her. It was just super. And so the whole thing, like, we never felt alone or out of place. We were always surrounded with people and good things. It was, I think it was called the Blackstock had a newspaper back then, and a reporter came out, met me on the run that day, and he wanted to do a little story for answering his questions, and he wanted a picture. And so I said, okay. So he said, turn around, run the other way. And I said, but that's going to Strathmore. I'm going to the run. He said, but we'll make a much nicer picture. He said, the background that way. I said, I'm going to Strathmore. I'm going this way. One picture, you take it. And I don't know, it was just, I thought it was important to not be part of fake news. So. All right. So running in the rain, I never liked it. In fact, I never really liked running. I just liked what it did for me. But so running in the rain just wasn't my thing. And so one day it did kind of look like it was going to rain. And as everybody knows, communication is very important. I had no cell phone. And Kathy, we worked out some signals when I left. And the deal was, when she came along, if I was done, I would wave at her. And if I wanted to keep going, I'd give her the thumbs up. So I went quite a ways, and yeah, it was raining, and I was getting sick and tired of this, and I usually don't like to quit, but I just thought, I am done. When she comes along, I'm done. She came along, I give her the wave, she drove along, and I seen the brake lights come on. I thought, well, that's good. But it was a curve in the road. She was gone. And so I thought, well, the motorhome, it's not an easy thing to, and we never had one before, it was to maneuver. she's just trying to find a place to turn around or whatever. I should maybe go under this tree, but I'll just keep running. So I kept running, and I went around the curve. I didn't see no motorhome, but then I seen a big dairy farm with a milk truck would roll in and I'd pull out of, and she didn't turn around to there. And I seen a waste management truck come in and pick up a bucket, lots of room. So after the 20th laneway where I thought she could have turned around, I quit counting. But, and this is what I learned from her scrapbooking, I never understood that wave or thumbs up, and I waved. What happened? So here's what she wrote. There's no lights here. That's the problem. Kathy's version, as told by Kathy. It was a wet day, but when we met first break, he said that he was feeling really good. It started raining really hard, and I pulled up beside him, and I was shocked to see him smile and wave at me. He looked like he was enjoying himself. According to my calculations, he hadn't quite reached his 30-kilometer goal that day, so I continued on ahead and parked where I knew he could see that. After all, he always wanted to go a little further. That was her version. And there are two lessons that we learned here. One, in running and in marriage, clear communication is key to success. And the second one is find a partner who will push you further than you thought you could go. I was fortunate in both of those categories. Thank you, Scotty. I was a big, everybody's got a weakness, and mine is Doritos. And so when I would laugh at the serves, they had a great big jumbles. I'd never seen a bag that big before. And they made a big deal of it. And Vicki had contacted Doritos and wanted to get them in on the sponsorship or do something, you know, and it wasn't a very positive response. She was pissed off. And anyways, nothing happened on that part. Well, the one, I don't know where it was, but the one time we just happened to be staying in a hotel right beside the Doritos factory. So we walked down there, we had a big sign, Kathy took my picture, and we framed it and presented it to Vicki when we were finishing one. And I did have my pants down, I was moving the sign, but it was made for a nice picture. We stopped in Waterloo at her daughter's place. She was going to the school there, some health sciences or whatever. She was a big healthy nut about food and stuff. And back then, quinoa was the big thing. And while I called, we left there, she had quinoa salad, quinoa casserole, quinoa. But we didn't have a big fridge in this motorhome. And to tell you the truth, I didn't really like quinoa. I think it was the Grand Valley Fortifiers. They set us up with a few of their customers so we could stay at their farms along the way. And the one was Francis Crowley's Dairy Farm around Norwood. And it was a really nice place, and they were really welcoming us. They gave us a donation when we left, and I left the quinoa in his manure box. On to Lakefield, that was one of the next stops, and they had a grand opening of Morton Community Health Center, and it was a really nice place. It was one of those community health centers where they have everything, like doctors, nurses, dietitians, everything you need. And they were so proud of it too, and they had goals to raise $2.5 million to build it, and they actually raised $5 million, and they opened it without any mortgage on it. And so we were part of their official opening. There was the mayor who was there, the board was there, the deputy mayor, and deputy mayor, I recognized him, he was Andy Mitchell. He was the federal cabinet minister quite a few years ago. And Jeff Leo was a member of the Liberal MPP for that area. And I thought it was strange that he presented me with a certificate that I had completed this 1,800 kilometers in 60 days. And we were only at about 400. And I thought, how's this? And then I realized it's liberal government, they can do that kind of stuff. Somebody asked me how I was feeling that day, and I looked over, there was a physiotherapist's office, and it was closed. And I said, well, if that place was open, I'd be in there. Because because I was having trouble with my ankle with all the hills. And so before we left, somebody came up and gave me a card and said, uptown, and they had a physio appointment scheduled for me. And just all those little things that just sort of happened right out of the blue. We moved on to with Doug Farrell, him and his wife Marg. He was a former chair, Doug, and they were hog farmers, and we spent a couple of nights there at their place, and just really friendly. We ate in the house for supper. One night was Halloween, kids were coming around, and we swapped a lot of pig stories, and he showed me a wiener room that he had designed the ventilation on it 25 years prior to that, and it was still working good, and I looked at those pigs and thought, wow, we gotta get something like that at our place at home. And so anyways, I think I had to quick run in, and then we drove on just because there were some events scheduled ahead of time. And so one of them was to meet the Governor General. There's a nice picture over there of us running with David Johnson and his wife Sharon. So it wasn't supposed to be the Governor General, it was just Sharon because he was busy or something. And she told us that, so when we got there, Kathy made a presentation of a t-shirt to Sharon. And that's right honorable, I think you're supposed to say, Sharon. And but then she told us that David, sometimes he's a little nosy and he likes to know what's going on her agenda. And he was looking at it the night before, and he just might show up, and he did show up. So Kathy took the shirt off her back and she gave it to the Governor General of Canada. We went for a run outside Rideau Hall. There's we just went down to the gates and just a little bit too far because I think some alarm bells started going off. And, if we were in the States, we'd shoot guns or something. But we came back in and we had a really, a nice visit, a homely visit. Felt like we were in their house. And they made, hot chocolate. We were just chatting about real things, about what was going on. I remember him telling me he was the dean of Waterloo? Yes. And he had canceled the football program there because 3 of the football players were caught in a drug steroid scandal or something. And I said, boy, how did you punish the whole team? What was the thinking there? He said, well, we knew we only caught 3, but there was more than that. He said, so we didn't want any of that going on in our school, and so we just canceled. So I thought, wow. But anyways, we had a real nice visit with them, and then outside, him and Sharon both, outside was this Terry Fox Memorial thing, and we've seen a number of them along the run, but it was really moving when you think about what he did. Unbelievable. So I ran 1,800 kilometers. He, on 2 legs, healthy legs, he ran 5,432 kilometers on 1 leg. And when you look at the posture and how he had to walk, the strain and stress physically on his body, it's just, I cannot imagine it. And so, it's just amazing what he did. All unbelievable. But he did it. And he did it because he wanted it. And he made it his mind. So, page 3. Last page. We had another thing in Cornwall. The mental health agency there had organized a reception for us. And it was one of the really special ones. There's a banner there along the side there. And so, like I said, a lot of the other ones, they had welcoming committees, dignitaries, and all that kind of stuff. At Cornwall, it was just the clients from that mental health agency. And they had organized the whole day. They made the banner. They made the lunch. And afterwards, we just sat around, talked to them, listening to their stories, and telling them our stories. It was really incredible. It was different. And a couple of the counselors came out and ran with me that day. And it was, it was just sort of ushered me into town. And it was just a really nice event. We did get to meet up with Bev and Barb Shipley at Parliament Hill. They gave us a tour of the Commons. And we had never been there before. We got to meet Pat Davidson, who was the MP for here at the time. And worked on her house when I was 14, building their house, and we had a bit of a connection there. And her mom was a good friend of my mom, so it was good. So then that night we needed a place to stay, and we were driving along, and I seen the sign, Really Livestock Farm. And I had heard about that as a sales farm. And so I thought that would be a pretty good place to park. So we went there, and they said, yeah, no problem. They even allowed us to plug in. Not all places had hydro, but they did. And, you know, it was like a 5-star place. Until about 4 o'clock in the morning when the cattle truck started to arrive. A lot of noise going on there. Then we met up with, north Dundas or south? I was getting too mixed up. But we were in that municipality. Kathy had brought a whole bunch of pins from our municipality, and we were collecting some, swapping. So we went in there, we met Eric Duncan. And he was the mayor, and he was 24 years old, and he'd already served 1 term on council. And he fixed us up with his dad. He had a transport truck yard and JD Express, and they had a hot shower, and it was perfect. So we stayed there, I think 2 nights too. That was near Kempville, and Eric is now the MP for that area, and he did talk back then about he wanted to be prime minister. So I'm not sure if that'll ever happen or not. Then we're on to Pincus Tire in Winchester. Is that where you back the motorhome into the post? I think it was. So anyways, this is what happened in Williamsburg. It's just a small town on the sides of Reese's Corners, but it didn't have a Tim Hortons. And so today is another cool sunny day. Mike ran 25.35 kilometers in 2 hours, 38 minutes. He finished on Highway 11 at Williamsburg, Ontario. He had an interview with the Winchester Press. There was also a nice article in the Waterford Guide. Today, some of Mike's family went to a memorial mass at St. Christopher's in Forest in memory of those who passed away in the preceding year, which included my mom in 2011. Mike tells me that his mom is with him every step of the way. I know she would be doing our endeavors to promote awareness for mental health. And she definitely was with me. Some of those days when I didn't feel like running, I did. So anyways, Kathy stopped at Pincus Tire in Williamsburg, as this was where she was to meet me. She says Williamsburg decides to restore the Tim Hortons. She went to Pincus Tire and asked where she could get something to eat. The lady in the store told her, after Kathy told her what she was doing, she offered her her car. And you can drive 20 kilometers to the nearest Tim Hortons. And Kathy said, I don't really want your car. I don't really want to go to Tim Hortons. So I said, well, we do have a little diner here. So Kathy sent her over there. And there was a tea room. And so she had something to eat, browsed around the antique shop. She's good at browsing the shop. And she decided to buy a maple leaf that was dipped in gold for $23. When she went to pay the owner said that lunch was already paid for by the lady at Pincus Tire, and the maple leaf was on him. And maple leaf was made in Waterloo, where her daughter was. So, and that wasn't unusual for those kind of things to happen. They just happen over and over again. When we bought, so we didn't have a motorhome, never had one, and when we decided to do the run, I was driving by on Black Motors, and there was this old beat up motorhome for $5,500. So we bought it that day, and it worked, except the gas gauge didn't work. Who needs a gas gauge, eh? And this one day we were driving along, and after going by the third gas station, Kathy, all 3 of them, Kathy said, should we stop? And I already got lots of gas. And so then I got out and did my run. She drove into Hastings or Sterling and got some groceries and came back out. And she said, there's something wrong with this motorhome, she said. And it was out of gas. You know. So, and just a little farm, the farm just backed away a little bit. I heard a skill saw, so I knew somebody lived there. So I went back, and it was just an older gentleman, and he lived by himself. It's obvious that he lived by himself for too long. And, but he also, and I told him the story. He said, well, maybe I can give you a ride into town. I said, okay, that's good. I knew he had gas. That's 2 tanks, but that's all right. He's giving us a ride into town. And he was just like what are you doing? Why are you doing that? And when Kathy's sitting in the road, on the side of the road, we drive into town, him and I. The minute he turns into the gas station, I realize I forgot my wallet. I didn't have any money. Oh my gosh. So I tell him that, and I forget, I wrote it down here, the words he used. It was just like, wow, he couldn't believe it. And so I said, just don't worry, we'll work something out. So I went into the gas station, I told her our story, we had these cards of what we're doing. And I said, if you could just give me some gas, we'll get back here, we'll fill up, and everything will be good. But she wasn't even looking at me, and I thought, what is she looking at? I turned around, and he's like this. So he lent me all his money, which was $4. We got $4 worth of gas. We went back to the motorhome. Luckily, it started up. I turned around, and we were on the other shoulder of the road, which was a little more tilted, and it stalled because there wasn't enough gas in the tank. And so along came the mailman named Sean, our oldest son's named Sean, and he took Kathy, and they went got gas. One of the points of that story is I didn't stop at those other 3 gas stations. They were Esso stations. We got a 10% reduction. Anyways, next thing, what do we have here? Oh, I guess one place in Quebec, huge church complex with a St. Vincent de Paul store and everything store. And we thought this is perfect. Nobody was around Sunday night. We parked, we were pulling in, didn't ask. And in the morning, a knock came from the door. The guy says, what are you doing here? I started telling him about the run. Kathy says, he don't care about the run. And the question is, what are you doing here? It's like, get out. So we did. In Hotel D, let's see over that one. Just a lot of nice things happened. One place we stayed out at the food stand. I worked at my Uncle Jim, carrying out these corners, carrying a food farm. I was 14, $60 a week, 60 hours. And this place reminded me just of that farm, and the older guy was like my Uncle Jim. And it was just a really nice experience. And Uncle Jim taught me a very valuable lesson. So when I went there, he had a lot of employees, high turnover. And my dad told me if he gives you any trouble, he said, you just come on home, don't take any crap off of him. And we got along fantastic until the Labor Day weekend. And I grinded the gears on a real Alice Chalmers tractor, and he yelled and screamed at me. And so I knew that, and I was supposed to work every Saturday until Thanksgiving. So I had it all figured out. Saturday night was payday. He would go to the till, take $60 out to give it to me, and I was going to tell him I was done. I'm not coming back on Monday. And so I went up to get the money. He took it out of the till, and he had it in his hand. And I told him, he said, what? Like that. And even to this day, I like to get things and then pay. So I pay for things in advance. And so Uncle Jim, he got his way. I ended up working Saturdays and stuff like that. Just always wait till money's in your hand before you shoot your mouth off, I guess. A lot of things we noticed along the way in Quebec, I was right along this riverbed, and it was a nice low, flat area, and you can see the railroad down there, the road is up here, and I just sort of thought, oh, these surveyors 100 years ago, they knew what they were doing. Like, they just put the roads and everything where they needed to be. In Quebec especially, a lot of small dairy farms, bank farms, just like the one we had at home, they didn't look like much more than 50 or 60, 75 cows needed the most, and it was just, it's a whole different world than that. So we're going to wrap it up here. They had a big, I got another story I'm going to do this one first. My brother John married in shepherd, a big farm out on the corner of Brigham side over the road to me. And Marilyn married this guy named Gord. And Gord, he had horseshoes up his ass when it comes to betting. And we would always, he was a Calgary Stampeder fan, and I never knew until it was bad. And so I just have 2 examples. 2008 Grey Cup. We were in Montreal at my aunt's place for the game, and he took it upon himself to call my sister-in-law to get the phone number to call my aunt in Montreal, and he talked to me when we met at the game, and he was willing, and Calgary was playing Montreal, and I could pick whatever team I wanted. And I thought, all right, I'm going to take Calgary, where I'm going to show you. And so that was that. And but all week in Montreal was the favorite. They were going to trounce and all that stuff. So I called him up Sunday morning, got home from church. I called him. I got his answering service. I said, hey, Gord, I feel really bad for taking your team, Calgary. I'm going to let you take Calgary, and I'm going to take Montreal. And sure enough, his team won. I lost the bet. A couple years later, and I didn't deny ever making that call because anybody could have made that call. So it didn't matter. A couple years later, Montreal was playing Saskatchewan in the Grey Cup. I took Saskatchewan, he took Montreal. I called him up at the end of the third quarter. Saskatchewan was winning 20 by over 3 touchdowns, 21 points. And I was gloating and asked if he wanted to increase the bet. He said, no, I'm comfortable with it. I thought, that's kind of strange. But then Montreal did score when I was talking to him. I thought, that's not good. But anyways, fast forward on to the end of that game. If you remember, so Montreal was my team, was kicking for the, Montreal was his team, Saskatchewan was mine. Montreal ended up tied the game, and on the last play of the game, they were kicking for the winning field goal. And the guy kicked it, and he missed. I go to the bet. Saskatchewan had 2 people on the field, and they had a penalty for it. They moved the ball ahead 5 yards. Montreal kicked the field goal, won the game, Gord runs back. But the point of the story is, as lucky as Gord is at betting, he unfortunately wasn't the same, not on the same luck when it comes to his health. He had a form of Parkinson's disease that I can't spell well or pronounce. That is nothing short of debilitating. He's not much older than Kathy and I, and recently had to, this is back in 2013, had to move to a home for special care. A list of what he endures in a day make you wonder why God puts a person through such a thing. And his future prognosis makes today look good. My mom used to always say that God never burden you with any more than you can handle. True to that, Gord is handling it, although I don't know how he does it. So one day I was running along the river and I stopped and called him, and I sat up at back. Hamilton was playing Calgary that night. My team scored the first touchdown about right on. We didn't the whole game. 2 minutes left in the game. His team scored a touchdown and won the game. But Gord went through a heck of an experience, and I think for me it was just an inspiration of when you think you can't do something, look at other people, what they're doing. For me, it just spurred me on. So I'm going to wrap it up here with got quite a bit more, but we better just skip to the ending here. So we had a big hoopla planned for us in Miramichi, and there was lots of people there. The University of New Brunswick or something, they came out, they had all kinds of people. They ran with us into town. We gathered at the water tower. And I looked up and there's a big Irish sign and a left on a shamrock, and it was the Irish capital of New Brunswick or something. Very a lot of Irish people came there in many years ago, and we got to run. There's some pictures there too with our granddaughter crossing the finish line. It was really good because I guess I did also have some bets with 4 people. And it was also double down bet. They sponsored us, and I said if I didn't do it in 60 days, then I would match their donation. And if I did it in under 60 days, they would double their bet. And I did it in 58 days, and only one of them held up. And I got the names of the other 3 girls. So don't get that even. So anyways, at the end we had a very nice celebration, and here's what they wrote in the paper here. So this is Vicki Stevens. So we didn't think she was going to make it up to the end, and when she did, it was just a real nice emotional boost, especially for Kathy to see her. It was just awesome that she made that happen. And so she was telling the newspaper about Kathy. That poor woman has had to sit on the edge of her seat for 1,800 kilometers, said Stevens. She's been the soul of this journey, making contacts along the way, and talking with hundreds and hundreds of people to stomp out the stigma of mental health. Kerrigan agreed, saying, I couldn't have done it without her. That's for sure. That's a fact. It would never have happened if Kathy didn't volunteer to do what she did. So thank you very much, Kathy. And then Eileen Jackson, my sister, drove down with her husband Jim just to be there for the end. I thought, well, they drove to New Brunswick to be there. And it's just and Eileen was saying it was just an amazing journey. Just him and his wife who decided to do this, she said. Mike has so much faith that no matter what, he knew that God was going to look after him. That's just who he is, said Jim. Kerrigan just recently retired from his work in refinery and now focuses mostly on his pig farm. I'm so thankful and grateful I have the physical capabilities and the mental capabilities to do this run. For all the people that will benefit from it, and even if that is only one person that gets help, it will be all worth it, I said at the time. And once I made up my mind that I was going to do it, the rest was easy. Thank you very much.
Mike, we really want to thank you for coming in tonight. And in lieu of a speaker donation, we're going to give you a donation to your charity. Thanks very much. Joanne, if you want to come just for a couple minutes.
Okay, hard act to follow. Usually I'm on right before a meal, so I'm off after a really good speaker. So I've got 5 minutes here. Joanne Sanderson, I'm the field representative for Ontario Soil and Crop, and I just want to share with you some upcoming events that are happening. For those of you that need your environmental farm plan, I'm running one in Alvinston next Wednesday, which is August 28th and on September 4th. So I have cards here, and if you want to register for that event, I'm very happy to have you to come. It's going to be running. I have some fellow farmers from the Lambton community that will be there as well. So what do you need your environmental farm plan for? One is for your own benefit and for understanding how your farmland works and what your farming practices are. The other reason is some cost share funding that's available. It's open now. There's some that is open now for a variety. There's the OFA program, which is the On-Farm Climate Action Fund. It's open now and it will be running until the funds are allocated. And my understanding is there's still lots of funds there to access, pay 65% of funding for nitrogen management, cover crops, and rotational grazing. And we're looking forward to the Ag Stewardship Initiative that should be opening sometime in the next 6-8 weeks. I haven't really heard when it's opening. So I'm just going to take that few moments to share that I'm here. If you're interested in any of these funding opportunities and you're not sure when they're happening, I suggest you take my card, send me an email, and in the subject line write "sign me up," and I will sign you up for Soil and Crops email listing. So it sends you an email with various announcements of when programs are open. I'll spend my last minute just mentioning about the Lambton Agricultural Hall of Fame. I'm the chair of that committee. I have Debbie Kokas here. She's one of the directors, and Ralph Ayer is here. And I don't think I've missed anybody else so far, but we want to just acknowledge some of our Hall of Fame inductees that are here. There's George and Agnes Dickinson, who are our 2023 inductees. And there's Dawn and Ann McGugan, who are also our 2023 inductees. And we're very proud to have Jim Duffy, who is one of our 2024 inductees. So I was making sure, I was checking his nomination. I went out to the plaques out there, made sure his name was on it, which it said it was. It's not on there once, it's on 10 years worth of plaques. So we're very pleased to have Jim in the Hall of Fame, along with Jim Duffy and Davis and Mary Bryans and John and Chris Bryans from Monroe Honey. So those were our 3 inductees We're looking forward to the 2025 inductees that we nomination forms. They're due March 31st. If you're interested at all or think of some farm or farm organization or farmer that you think would be an excellent inductee into the Hall of Fame, then just give me a call and I'm happy to send you the nomination forms and help you with your project. So thanks very much for your time, Brian. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Our next topic is to give out the scholarships for the 2025 and the 2024, listing Joanne's presentation. And the first one we're going to give out is the Joyce Anderson Scholarship. Mike, would you like to come up?
Sydney, are you here? Come on up. My name is Mike Barron. I'm with the Sarnia Community Foundation, and I feel amazed to be here tonight. We're going to recognize Sydney here in a second, but Mike's talk was phenomenal. Anyways, it's just great. I wasn't able to be here last year, so I wish I was. This is great. It's inspiring. I've met a lot of new people, and it's great. So, Sydney, congratulations. Can you tell me where you're going and what you're going to be doing?
Yeah, for sure. So right now I'm going into my third year at Redeemer University, which is a private university in Ancaster, sort of by Hamilton. I'm majoring in creative writing and I'm minoring in history.
Awesome. Well, congratulations. And
Thanks very much, Mike. Just to run through, I guess, to make sure we understand. So we give out 8 different scholarships a year. This one, as you can see the criteria on the screen, enroll the second or third year of any post-secondary program at a recognized post-secondary institution. Mike, if you could roll ahead to the next one, please. Our next one is the Bill and Dorothy Amron Broom Scholarship. So enrolled in the first year of a diploma or degree program in agriculture at a recognized post-secondary institution. And unfortunately, Pavlov could not be here with us tonight. I'll ask Mike here to, Mike, sorry, your wife's going to come on? Okay. Our next one is the Patrick and Timothy Kerrigan Scholarship. As you see, the criteria is enrolled in the second or more year of college or third year or more year of university at any post-secondary program at a recognized post-secondary institution in Ontario. This recipient is Dana Robbins. Dana, could I ask you a question, please? We have 2 Bell scholarships, Bell 1 and Bell 2. The Bell 1 here is enrolled in a second year or more year program at agriculture at a recognized post-secondary institution. And this year's winner is Samuel Thomas. I think Samuel's with us here. Our other Bell 2 scholarship is enrolled at any year program in agriculture at a recognized post-secondary institution. And our recipient this year is Tim Bastian. Stewart Scholarship, This recipient is Nikki Boer, who is unable to join us tonight. Lois Wakefield Scholarship. Recipient enrolled in the first year of any post-secondary program in 2 or more years, at least 2 years in length, at a recognized post-secondary institution. This year's recipient is Mallory Forbes. Next scholarship is the Don McCabe Scholarship, kind of centered around 4-H. There's a significant 4-H component to this scholarship, but the institution enrolled in the first year of any post-secondary program, at least 2 years in length at a recognized post-secondary institution, and Addison Griffin is this year's recipient. This is a fairly new scholarship for us, the Lambton County Women's Institute, available to any Lambton College student entering first or second year of full-time studies at any college university in Ontario, at least your first enrollment degree. Applicants' permanent address must be in Lambton, and previous winners are not eligible. This year's recipient is Tyler McGrail. He's with us tonight. I'm sorry, that's Tyler's parents. Sorry. Thank you very much. This is just a summary of all of our scholarships tonight. So we come to the part of the program that I give a little bit of an update, but one of the first things that I'd like to do is kind of recognize the board members that are here. But I want to start with our administrator first. She's done a wonderful job of running away before I could recognize her. Leah's in the back of the room. Thanks very much, Leah, and Alicia is our financial administrator. They're the ones that try to keep us and all the board together here. For some of the other directors, Bert here is, maybe Bert, if you want to stand up or wave your hand or something, people know. Bert. Mike Ellen there in the back. And George Dickinson. I see Gary Martin in the back there. Trying to work Emma Martin, I think she's there, she is back there. Emma Martin, what am I saying? Emma Olette. I apologize. And I know better, I know I do. Fraser. And Harry is here. And I think we're everybody else. Oh yes, Darcy right alongside. Brad Langstaff. And Micah, there she is. And then, why would Sarah, there we go. Sarah, thanks very much. I think that's all. I just want to recognize the rest of the directors that are on our board here. So, Mike, if you can go to the next page for me. One more. Oh, we got 2 in there. So, the LFA obviously is our local federation in reliance of the OFA, and you know, we look at the local issues and local advocacy concerns and so on and so forth. We do meet on a monthly basis. Most of our meetings are by Zoom, and although we have had a few in-person meetings this year, we did welcome our 4 new directors this year, and Lee is our new administrator, as I mentioned. We did try to take a little step forward and organize 2 different advocacy events. One we were going to call Through a Farmer's Eyes to try to identify some of the specific concerns around that us farmers look at with machinery and with some of our municipal politicians. And unfortunately, that didn't come to fruition. We just couldn't get enough interest in it. And we also had a local MP day that we were going to have all the farm groups in Lambton come together and be able to do presentations and talk to our local representatives. Had some issues trying to schedule that and so on, but that's something that we're going to push forward on. We're going to do it in the winter time. It's probably not going to happen. Some of the other events that we looked at this year, we did meet with the Seaweed Quants to try and talk about some of the future of their animal farm concern. We did with the election that happened, the sex, we partnered with those other two federations and had all candidates tonight. Did participate, one of the things we do a lot of work with is the farm safety in Lambton, and we did participate with the Land Farm Safety Association and PB Marte. Something that was a little different for us, and I know I was speaking with Mike Barron there earlier, that's something we'd like to do more of is we had a career night. We were invited to participate in PE in school. I was really surprised. It was, probably had over, I'm going to say there's at least 150, 200 jobs that went through that. And had a lot of interest. 3 or 4 hours of interacting with those young people, and surprised at the amount of interest there was in agriculture. Chatham Farm Show participated in that, obviously with Lambton's own crop. Another focus area that we looked at was 4-H, and we made a significant donation to the 4-H in Lambton County to support their rally night this year, and that's a really good association that we like to work with. Some key issues that we try to focus on here in Lambton right now, at least. Probably the number one issue I think that we are all facing in agriculture today is just simple land use. There's so many pressures on land, and whether that be for industrial housing, other various, in some of our cases, we're looking at different provincial type projects and infrastructure projects that are targeting farmland that should be used for food production. Instead, we're looking at it that it's being pulled out for various other reasons. Even to the point of expropriation, if we look at some of the areas like in Beaumont Township and so on that are going on. We see that's only going to increase over the next several years, and it's something that we really focus on heavily. On the taxation side, or what I kind of term as taxation issues, is looking at how the municipalities are, I guess I'll say, trying to come up with more dollars, figure out how they can balance their balance sheets. And one of the ways they're starting to look more and more at is how they can look at that agricultural body as something that they pay our fair share as a term. And some of the areas that are being looked at, and I know particularly right now in Sarnia, they're looking at it, is looking at what we call stormwater or these building charges. In most cases, agricultural buildings are always exempt from these, but there's several municipalities across Ontario are outright now saying, no, we're not going to be exempt. We're going to call an agricultural building an industrial building, and therefore you're going to require some use charge. The next point is talk about farm tax rates. And I identified Kent here because this is something that is pretty new that's coming out of Kent County. In the Chatham County area, that they are specifically meeting now to look at changing their tax rates and increase the amount of tax percentage that is attributed to farmland. The biggest issue why that's in effect, I think, is because of the out-of-date impact assessment, or impact assessment. We're all dealing with an impact assessment that's from 2016. Through COVID, the provincial government held that and decided to go ahead and said, no, we're not going to change those. They made it clear that that will not go on forever, but we just don't know how long it will go on for. And when that does, that's going to dramatically increase those property assessments probably across the board. So looking at something what Chatham County is doing to try and change that inclusion rate is going to have a double impact. Another issue that again is affecting Lambton, Chatham County, and probably all the municipalities or all the federations around is how the railways have taken an approach to now say that they're not concerned about taxation and drainage issues associated to their, in many cases, older infrastructure, but even some of their current railway infrastructure. For decades, they have always managed that themselves, paid for it, and managed to play ball, I guess I'll say, with all the various other municipalities in play. And the last year and a half, they just decided, no, we're not going to do that anymore. that's something that's going to have, that could have a dramatic impact across the province. Some items that are a little more closer to home here in Lambton. Again, kind of targeting some of that agricultural farmland, but that have an impact on us is pipelines. Specifically, that there's, I know there's a natural gas pipeline that went through last year. There's other pipeline projects that are proposed. One that's affecting us right down here in the very extreme southwest is the hydro corridor. That's going to start, we'll probably see construction happen in 2027. But it's not an approved project yet, but it's been identified as a priority project for the province, so it most likely will happen. And the last item that I identified is battery storage. I shouldn't say just battery storage, but energy storage. A new, for us at least, it's a pretty new concept. And you know, there were 3 or 4 specific projects targeted from Lambton County that ultimately all got defeated or changed for some way. But if I look at a company like Enbridge, they are aggressively going to go forward with at least 3 more in this upcoming fall open entry period put on by the IESO. Good majority of those will be in Lambton County, those proposal sites. Personally, I guess I think that they're just too new. There's just not enough experience and enough knowledge on what the technology used in these batteries and how all this will work out. There is, I think, 4 that went forward in Essex County. They are in the middle of their project design and so on now, but again, targeting farmland for non-food production uses, I think is something has to be a strong, something that we really keep on top of going forward. Something else that we managed through the OFA is something called Locally Lambton. There are some maps over here on the tables, but I think it's probably been 5 years since we printed a map because it's just too hard to keep up on all the different new farm producers and places where you can you can go and buy that locally produced products and so on and so forth. So we have our website, locallylambton.com, that we do keep up to date, and something that I would encourage everyone to look and try to buy that food and produce that is produced locally. You go to the next slide, please. Another item that we do to try to encourage that have this food produced and then consume it here as well is what we call Hands to Table. This is a partnership program with a couple different organizations here in Lambton and Middlesex, but we work with the Middlesex Federation of Agriculture as well. And every year we approach in this case, we've got March here. Bistro is a fairly new restaurant in Sarnia. Approach them that we'd like to focus, do a video, and come in and try to do like an advertising campaign. And then, they create a specific menu that has, all their products, and it identifies exactly where that product was produced, and it's all sourced locally. Some other ways that the LFA works to support our community. We've talked about some of these, but the ones I'll highlight is food banks. Food banks and the fairs and the rodeo are all items that we give significant donations to every year. And if we look at it, specifically, I guess it was in 2022. We got requests back from the food banks that they're struggling. They needed that more money. We went ahead as a board and we doubled all our donations for that year. A significant amount of money that went back into our local communities. Some various ways that we try to get some of our information out to our members. The radio spot, some of these other, our website, and active social media channels that we keep posting and try and update things. Some upcoming events, calling match next week in Wyoming. Our area general meeting will be in January. We haven't picked an exact date yet, although I think the location is probably going to be in Wyoming. That seems to work fairly well for us. And we always have positions available on the board. If someone would like to come and help join our board, that'd be great. For the OFA, I guess that is it. I think our next is Christian.
So, I'm Chris McCullough, I'm the director for Lambton and Middlesex counties on the OFA board. And I'm here to give you a bit of a provincial update. I'm assuming the slides will go along, and hopefully, but if they don't, it doesn't matter. And maybe they aren't. Anyway, so some of the things that I'm going to touch on are some of the activities that we've been involved in at the OFA board level. Some of the highlights are the land issues, of course, as Brian talked about. Oh, they are perfect, excellent. We've been active on issues like carbon tax, capital gains, stormwater. Municipalities, basically, when we look at the stormwater issue, municipalities have two ways of raising funds. They either raise property tax or they have fees that they charge. They don't have any other options to raise funds. So I think we're going to see more of fees being charged as time goes on. And so this is something we have to be cognizant of and be aware of. The next slide, we're talking a bit about some of the advocacy outcomes. OFA is a lobby or advocacy organization. And some of the things that we've been working on are the advanced payment program, where originally it was asked for, I believe it was around 300 or 350,000 to have it increased. We were able to, across the country with the CFA, increase to 250,000, and the CFA did a survey, and it turns out that most people required on the advanced payment program between 200 and 250,000. So this was a good number to land on. The underutilized housing tax was another issue that we worked on. Farmers who buy farms aren't doing it because there's a house on it that they want to have and they want to rent. It's not speculation in housing, it's because you want to increase your business. So we worked with the government to explain that punishing farmers with an underutilized housing tax was really pointless. What would happen is the farmers would either sever the house off and sell it, or ultimately tear it down, reducing the tax base in the municipality. So fortunately, the government saw the wisdom in our argument and accepted it, and we were able to have some success on that one. Another of the advocacy outcomes is on the Veterinarian Act. The Veterinarian Act hadn't been changed for approximately 30 years. And then Minister Thompson turned it over to Minister Flack, now he is. And Rob Flack was the one that started it, but once he was appointed minister, it had to get handed off to somebody else. But the advantage was it changed a lot of things. We expanded seen the expansion of the use of veterinary technicians now, and also we're pushing to continue to grow the veterinary programs so that we can have more vets, particularly large animal vets, and there's a really big need for large animal vets in the north. The provincial policy statement on land use, there's one that just came out a couple of days ago, as a matter of fact, and it talks about protecting specialty crop land and class 1, 2, and 3 lands. It ignores or puts less emphasis on class 4 and 5 and the lower lands. So we'll be pushing back a bit on that for one thing, but the other thing with the land use is that, as Brian said, there's a lot of pressures that we're facing on land use, particularly in southwestern Ontario. So that's a constant file. We were successful in joining forces with a number of other commodity organizations when the government proposed a 3-lot severance on farms. We really felt that was going to be detrimental to agriculture, unquestionably, in terms of sterilizing land if you wanted to expand your livestock operation, and also the conflicts between urban people who come to live in the country on a nice 1-acre lot but fail to understand that we have to spread manure, we have to combine at night, we have to spread, it's going to be dust when you want to have your family picnic in the summer. So we were pleased that the government listened and changed their direction on that one. In terms of government relations, our president, Ms. Wolfka, was present at the Premier's press conference expressing agriculture's concern with the carbon tax on agricultural buildings. I'll touch on that a little bit in the next couple of slides with the legislative update for the Canadian Federation of Agriculture. And we had our Queen's Park Advocacy Day in the spring. Every year we go to Queen's Park. We have done it twice a year in the past, but lately we've only been doing it once a year. And we go and we lobby on certain aspects, whether it's infrastructure, healthcare, education. All of them have a rural focus, of course. And the other thing is we meet with a lot of MPPs that are from an urban setting, live in Ottawa, or live in Toronto, or live in London, and so on. And they don't have the understanding of agriculture that we would like them to have. So most of them, in fact all of them, are always very interested in what we do and how we do it, because it's in their interest to know where their food comes from also. So it's always a good day that way, even if you're meeting with non-urban people. So you're still lobbying, you're still trying to get our message across, and it's just as important that the urban MPs understand that as well. In terms of other government relations, we've done various media efforts to raise awareness on issues, especially the land issue. That's been the biggest one probably of all of them. Pretty well every director around the table does interviews, whether it's on radio, television, with the media. We all have consistent messaging. That's one thing that's important, and one thing that you'll find in media training, if you ever take any, is consistency and keeping the message relatively short as well. Most people can absorb 1 or 2 points, maybe 3. I'm not picking on politicians, but it's true for anybody in this room as it is for politicians to learn to pick on, just keep it simple. The next slide is on the legislative update that the Canadian Federation of Agriculture does. And I'd like to put this one in because a lot of what happens at the national level impacts us as well. So just a quick scan of some of these bills, because that's a tough slide to read, I realize. The first one is Bill C-234. That's the carbon bill where the original bill had farm buildings exempt from the carbon tax. So your poultry buildings, your hog buildings, greenhouses, none of those, that was taken out by the Senate. When the bill went to the Senate withdrew that part. It's gone back to the House. It's stalled at third reading. What the CFA did was they collected 50 sample costs. It took 50 farmers, asked them for a 1-month period, what's your carbon tax bill? Those 50 farmers paid over almost $330,000 in 1 month in 2023, and that will continue to go up. But unfortunately, the Bloc Québécois and the Liberals are joining forces. They have enough votes that any amendments to the bill will not happen. There's a Pandemic Prevention and Preparedness Act, which is Bill C-293, and one of the things in it is the language in it. And it's Nathan Erskine-Smith, who ran for the provincial Liberal leadership, lost to Bonnie Crombie, but it's his bill. One of the wording in it is that they want to phase out high-risk species. And his argument is that high-risk species can carry pandemic illnesses that can be transferred to humans, and therefore we have an issue. The concern is that how is this going to affect the livestock industry? There's no definition of what a high-risk species is. Is it hogs, is it poultry, or is it rhesus monkeys? We don't know. And that's one of the challenges. There's also Bill C-355, which is the prohibition of export of horses by air. And it's not so much the horses by air part of the issue, it's what happens. This bill has been driven by activists, and it's targeting animals that ultimately end up for slaughter. So is this the beginning, the thin edge of the wedge? That's one of the concerns with that particular bill. And the last bill I'll talk about quickly is a new private member's bill, C-385, and it's an act to amend the Motor Vehicle Transport Act. And this is actually something that may be a benefit to agriculture in one sense, because the bill would allow for hours that are spent in a 240-kilometer radius not to count as on-duty times for drivers. So that's good from an animal welfare point of view, because it means that truck drivers moving animals or bees or whatever it may be, if they're staying within a 240-kilometer radius, they aren't restricted by the number of hours that they have to drive. So some of the things in Zone 6, thank you, that Brian talked about also was the Lambton Safety Day. I did a victim impact, little talk on victim impact on that one. Then the other one that I think is always really good was the joint effort with Lambton, Kent, and Middlesex Federations on the by-election day. Some of the other things that happened in Zone 6 was tours of P&H Milling Group in Hamilton, the Young Farmers Forum, which most of the federations sponsor young farmers to go to the annual meeting, which is always in Toronto, which is a good thing to do. We've also done both in Lambton and Middlesex sponsored culinary student tours with farm and food care. And one of the benefits of that is it brings awareness to the culinary students about how food is produced, where it comes from, and the care of animals. And I was on one last year with on the bus tour. And it was really interesting that none of the people on that bus tour, who were all aspiring chefs, had been to a farm. So it was all new to them. And that was very interesting from that perspective. And a lot of them are from the Philippines, strangely enough, when I was asking the professor about that. And he said one of the reasons they come here is, of course, for the education, but it's also a pathway to citizenship. They won't all stay in Southern Ontario. They'll go to the west, they'll go to the north, they'll go wherever there is a job, wherever they can get employment. So that was an interesting outcome from it. So they all want to contribute to the betterment of the society. So some of the hot topics next are, we do surveys, and I'm sure you've seen them on your inbox, and if you haven't, look for them, because we need your input to do our job more effectively. So what matters to you? You're the members, you tell us. So some of the issues that have been raised in the past have been taxes, infrastructure, and wildlife damage. Sandhill cranes, for example, in the north are devastating crops up there. Deer down here, of course. And so, as well, the other things that we hear from people is infrastructure, roads, bridges, schools, mental health. These are just a few of the things that we continue to advocate on. Other hot topics, land use. You know, Ryan talked about battery storage. The IESO has proposed that battery storage alone, just battery storage, will take 22,000 acres to store all the batteries, to place all the batteries. Not all of it will be agricultural land, but a lot of it will be. Land use planning is a big issue. And as planners we've talked to at different times have said, once you've got a plan in place, like the subdivision in this picture, if you've decided you've done something wrong, you made a mistake, it's too bad. You can't erase that and start over. So planning is very, very important to us. And when you think about it, Ontario, we have 5%, roughly a little bit less than 5% of Ontario is agricultural land. That means that 95% of our province is not capable of producing food. So if you assume that 25% is maybe wetlands and conservation lands and parks, that still leaves 70% of Ontario that could be used for housing and development. So the message here is we need to push government to put housing and development and industrial and commercial land uses on areas that do not produce food. So when we have people like the mayor of Windsor who said all he's going to do is just take more land because he needs it, that's a problem. Because all those people that are going to move there are going to need to eat. And we're going to end up relying on other countries to feed us. And that's a scary thought for a province like Ontario that actually exports a lot of its food now. Ryan talked about stormwater management, so I won't get into that one. Railway crossings, one of the things with the railway crossings that I just want to touch on quickly is that the Transportation Act, transportation changed in the 90s, I believe it was, when John Chrétien was Prime Minister. And one of the things it did is it reduced the obligation of the railways to maintain crossings. Up until that time, on a private crossing, if I had farmland on two sides of the railway track, the railway had to maintain that crossing and allow me to cross. Now what the railways are doing is they're coming to the farmers and they're coming to the private landowners and saying, if you want to cross onto your land and you're going to cross our railway track, here's what it's going to cost you. And the act is written, apparently, and I haven't studied it, so I'm going by what I've been told, is the act is written in such a way that some farms may have to have crossings that require lights and or barriers, which is ridiculous, but nevertheless, the way the legislation is written and the regulations, that apparently is what may happen. If that happens, farmers are going to stop farming on the other side of the tracks because they can't afford the $300,000 to $400,000 it's going to be in the regular maintenance fees to maintain those crossings. So we'll see where that goes. And that's my time. I have 2 more slides to go quickly as well. I'll go through quickly. We engage future leaders. This is a picture of 5 leaders that we took to Queen's Park for our Advocacy Day. We also take some leaders to the Canadian Federation of Agriculture, young leaders as well. We take leaders from the area. So the people that went to Queen's Park were all from southwestern Ontario, this region. The people that go to the Canadian Federation of Agriculture meeting were mostly from Eastern Ontario. So it's a great thing for them. Revive Fund projects, those are things like culinary tours that we did. There's a number of different ones. They've done mental health workshops, slow-moving vehicle signs, and road safety as well. And then some of the other campaigns that we're involved with are the Homegrown campaign, which is basically promoting homegrown food, Ontario products, knowing where your food comes, knowing it's grown here, how it's grown, and the Agri-Mentor program, which is coaching women in agriculture. And the most important one is making wellness matter. And that phone number up there, 1-866-267-6255, is a 24/7 phone number you can call if you for mental health resources and help. It's available to farmers and their families, as well as farm workers on the family. And the next slide is building partnerships. We work with a lot of different groups and build partnerships. We've got the Ontario Fire Chiefs Association that we're working with, Junior Farmers Association, farm businesses like Farm Life and BDO, who have taxation and capital gains expertise that our members can tap into as well. So that's basically it. Very quickly, I'm trying to keep up a tight timeline. If there are any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them afterwards. Ryan, back to you.
So good evening, everyone. My name is Karen McLean, and I am the Member Services Representative for the OFA in Lambton and Middlesex counties. Just give the folks in the back there a minute to bring the presentation up. But welcome to our OFA regional meeting for Lambton County. Purpose of tonight's meeting is to elect OFA Policy Advisory Committee representatives and delegates to the OFA annual meeting. The OFA AGM is going to be held on November 26th and 27th in Toronto at the Doubletree Hotel. To be eligible to vote tonight, you must be a current member residing in Lambton County, and it's 1 vote per membership. When you registered earlier this evening, you received the bookmark. So if we have a vote, you'll raise that bookmark and we'll give you a ballot. First, we need to appoint scrutineers. So we do have a few people in the audience who are not members of Lambton. Paul Nairn, who is our OFA West Regional Manager, and Teresa motion to appoint these two peoples as scrutineers, George, and a seconder, Harry. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, it's approved. Okay, how we doing? I think we're almost there. All right, so there we go. So Policy Advisory Council. So what is it? What does it consist of? What do you do if you're a member of the PAC? So it's an elected body of grassroots members consisting of representatives from the various counties as well as commodity organizations. They meet approximately 2 to 3 times a year, and their role is to gather member input on issues in agriculture, and then they provide the advice and input to the board of directors. They also monitor industry developments and identify any emergency issues. So PAC members do attend the AGM and they do vote, but their term begins after this year's AGM, so it really is for 2025. In-person meetings are generally held in Orangeville, but there are virtual options available. And your time and travel costs are compensated, so it's worth becoming a PAC representative. So our 2024 representatives, so the people who are going to the AGM this year, are Gary Martin, so he's at the back there, George Dickinson, and Brian Eves. So we do need to elect 3 people for 2025. So at this time, if I could ask the floor for nominations.
I nominate Carrie Van Leeuwen.
Okay, so George nominates, sorry, what was the name? Harry Van Leeuwen. If Leah could type that name in, or Mike, whatever. Any other nominations? We're looking for 3 members. Is anyone interested? Brad?
Brian Eves.
Brad nominates Brian Eves. Anyone else? Harry?
Nominate Gary Martin.
And Harry nominates Gary Martin. And last call for nominations? No, they do not have to be on the board. Right? Paul? Right, yeah.
We made a rule in Lambton that if you were a PAC member, you had to be on the board because
Okay,
if
so that's
you become a PAC member, then you become a board member because otherwise there's no way to go back and forth of the information from the board to the PAC.
You're right. Yeah, that makes sense. So George's comment there is you do need to be on the board so that you're relaying the information that's discussed at PAC and you're bringing it back to the board. So I apologize for that error. So last call for PAC members. Okay, and so from bottom up, Brian Eves, would you like to let your name stand for PAC?
Yes, I'll let my name stand.
Thank you. And Gary?
Yes, I'll let my name stand.
Thank you. And Harry?
Yes, I'll let my name stand.
Great. So we have Harry, Gary, and Brian representing PAC in 2025. So moving on, we need to elect delegates for the AGM. So as mentioned earlier by both myself and Crispin, it's going to be held on November 26th and 27th in Toronto. So what do delegates do? So the purpose of the annual general meeting then is really to showcase what the OFA has done in the last year on behalf of its members. So delegates come from all over Ontario, and they have an opportunity to raise issues and debate resolutions as we set policy moving forward. It participates in various seminars workshops. And as Crispin had mentioned, the Ontario Young Farmers Forum also takes place during the annual general meeting, and we actually have someone here tonight. Where's Emma? Is she still here? There she is. So Emma was sponsored by Lambton to attend last year, and if other people are interested, by all means, come see us. So we've already had a number of people put their name forward. There's one error on there. Gary's name should be removed. So these folks have already contacted us indicating that they'd like to be attending the AGM. And yeah, Brian's name as well. So the reason we're removing their names is because they're PAC representatives, and the PAC representatives also go to the AGM. So at this time, I'd like to open the floor to take nominations for the AGM.
Karen, can you specify that they don't have to be a director on Lambton board to attend?
You are correct. You just have to be an OFA member. You do not have to be on the local board, so the Lambton board. So, second call for nominations. Brad.
Julie Ma.
Sorry, Julie Ma? Yeah. Do you have that in writing, Brad? But you'll get it? All right. We'll put her name down, and Micah. Debbie Koch. So Micah nominates Debbie. George.
I'll nominate Emma.
George would like to nominate Emma Ouellette. Second call for nominations for the AGM. Anyone out there interested? You can nominate yourself.
Yeah, you can nominate yourself. Well,
Yeah. And third call for nominations.
I'll nominate Sarah.
George nominates Sarah Butler. Okay, and final call for nominations. Okay, so seeing none, I declare those nominations closed. So we'll review the list from bottom to top. Sarah, would you like to let your name stand? Thank you. How about Emma? Okay, so Emma declines. Debbie?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Julie and Fraser?
yes, I'll let my name stand.
Thank you. Russ Hyatt?
No.
Thank you. Brad?
Yes.
Great. Darcy?
Yes.
Matt Campbell? Is he here? I don't know him personally, but he had indicated in registration, but he's not here, is he? Oh, you are here. Oh, there you are. Come on, go into that. Would you let your name stand, Matt? So Mac declines? Yeah, okay. Harry?
Yes.
And Don McGugan?
How many do you need?
You need 9.
How many you got?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Put me down as an alternate.
Okay, so Don declines as a delegate. And the last one's Micah. All right, thank you. So if we remove Don, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Should be good then, eh?
Assuming that Julie says
Yeah, we'll have to check with Julie. Okay, so there is your list of delegates that will be attending the AGM in November. Thank you. And alternates then, Bert has indicated that he would like to be an alternate, and then John McGugan as well. I'll open the floor for further nominations for alternates. We need 2 people. Anyone willing to be considered an alternate? And final call? All right, so then Bert and Don will be our alternates, so if anyone is unable to attend PAC events or the AGM, they would step up in their place. Okay? Okay, so could I have a motion to allow the local federation to fill any positions that may become vacant? I remember last year we had a real late harvest, and in the end some people weren't able to attend. So if I could have a motion. Gary, seconded. Darcy, perfect. So if that happens again, then the board will go ahead and try and find replacements. So just a reminder, the resolution deadline is Wednesday, November 6th. So those resolutions, so if you have an issue that you feel passionate about and would like the OFA to consider, they can come from the county federation or from an individual OFA member. Would recommend you bring your resolution ideas to the local board first, but that doesn't have to be the case. Resolutions carried by delegates to the AGM or special general meeting are not binding on the OFA unless the resolution amends the OFA's bylaw. Okay, so at this time I call the election portion of the meeting closed. Thank you to everyone for putting your names forward. And I believe that's everything. So I can hand the mic back over to Ryan.
Okay, thank you very much, Karen. That comes to the end of our program this evening. I'd like to open the floor for any questions before I'll call the meeting to roll. Yes, door prizes would be really good.
Oh, yeah, separate. It's definitely right.
Who do we want to volunteer to pull a name? Are those the winners? Mike, Eric, could we ask you to come up and pull a name for us?
Yeah. So we've got a nice new OFA blanket.
Mike McGrill.
That's all I have.
Mike, we're going to ask you to pull the next winner.
Nobody falls asleep.
It's just that's fine.
I don't know. I think it's mine. You'll need it sooner or later.
Oh, unfair.
Karen McGrill.
We're lucky tonight.
That's just a kind of a swag bag for the OFA, and then we've got a couple cups we're going to give away as well. Karen, can I ask you to come up and at least we know you can't pick your husband's name. Mark Bastian, are they still here?
No, they left.
Yeah, they left. Okay. One more. Yes. us a month, that's a good idea. Marilyn McKinley. We'll do one more. You get to pick the last one. Barry Robbins. Okay, well that comes to the end of our meeting. I'd like to thank everybody for coming. And yes, we want to get pictures before everybody leaves and so. Thank you very much, folks.